the places where you see and feel alive. When you sit there on top of a mountain, you're living on the wild side of life.
I decided to fly to Idaho the summer of 2014, shortly after I purchased my airplane. She is a 2007 Savage Cub. I was also a freshly minted private pilot. I figured the best way to experience all the adventure that I had been reading about on backcountrypilot.org was to just get my ass out there and find it myself. The departure date was to be June 24th, 2014. Near the end of 2013, I started a business called Off Airport Gear. It specializes in clothing for pilots and enthusiasts alike, whose heart and spirit lies in the backcountry. This trip would also help to legitimize myself and give some street credit to the brand. The first of my challenges came at Marion, Indiana. I needed to land for fuel and stop for an advancing line of thunderstorms. No big deal. I had the thought to check my tire pressure before I left, but then I didn't, and I paid for it. I ended up spinning the tire on the wheel due to being so heavy and low air pressure. Luckily, I didn't shear the valve stem. It was an easy fix by letting air out of the tire and spinning the tire on the wheel to line up the wheel, tire, and tube with the valve stem. The Marion Airport guys were more than helpful with tools and equipment to fix me up. After waiting for the first storm to pass, I was off again. Dodged a few more cells and ended up in Platteville, Wisconsin for the night. It was a long first day. It's morning of day 2, Wednesday. This is where I slept last night. A lot of stuff. There's my Chariot. Platteville, Wisconsin. It actually ended up sleeping on the couches of many small airports. It saved a lot of setup and takedown time. After crossing the Mississippi River at Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, it became clear that I was actually making some progress. The Midwest is beautiful in its own way, but somewhat boring. I was ready to see some actual terrain. I was still a bit apprehensive about what the mountains and flying in them might behold. I decided to stop in Pierre, South Dakota due to some rather large and ominous looking thunderstorms on radar that were showing tops over 50,000 feet. Oh, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Not bad.
Real quiet.
Didn't even hear me, did you? Sneak peek. I left Pierre under clear skies, but more storms were forecast along my route of flight. This is summertime, and I am flying into constantly changing conditions when headed west. Once crossing into Montana, the radar and what I saw through the windscreen had me thinking landing would be wise. I was following the Yellowstone River east of Billings when I decided it would be a good idea to stop. Forsyth would be the point. It was an interesting place to be certain. field mechanic told some good stories, and there was no shortage of twisted metal lying around to check out. Heaps, as they were. An old crop duster boneyard. After the 3-hour delay in Forsyth, I was off again with some more thunderstorms to try and elude. The big one seemed to be moving at about a snail's pace, so I decided to try and fly around it. There was Billings airspace on my left wing and a large cell to my right, not to mention mountains behind both. I was doing well avoiding the Class C at Billings, but I was getting a bit too close for comfort with this cell. I was about 25 miles away from the storm and got blasted with a downdraft that put the camera that was lying between my feet right at eyeball height and then slammed it back down to the floor. I decided that was enough for one day and diverted to Columbus, Montana, to Walterman Memorial. It turned out to be a great decision as the accommodations were the best of the entire trip. So I just landed at Walterman Memorial, right on the Yellowstone River in Montana, west of Billings, and it's blowing. Probably my gustiest landing. A little hairy. But it was good. Scary, but good. The next morning was looking a bit drizzly with low ceilings, but the airports along my route of flight were all reporting VFR, or at least marginal VFR. I was following I-80 and would be able to keep the interstate beneath me if IFR was necessary. IFR as in, I follow roads. Kind of a joke, but something that could potentially save your life if shit gets real. About the time I got to Bozeman, the skies began to clear out and reveal a beautiful sight. Blue skies, of course. After a fuel stop in Dillon, Montana, I was ready to be in Idaho. Not before being warned about the weather in Monida Pass by the nice woman at the FBO. She informed me that it will only get worse as the day progressed, so if I saw an opening, I should go for it. But she said, do not push it. Turn around if it looks sketchy. There was a gentleman there a few weeks ago who waited for the weather to break for over a week. He took off and later perished in a crash because of the conditions. Not exactly a warm and fuzzy feeling. So there she is, Monida Pass.
Run.
I stopped at Mud Lake, a small municipal airport with an active crop dusting operation going on. Nice people, too, as the owner let me take their TDI Jetta down to town to get MoGas because of the lack of a courtesy car. I was thankful for that, and the gas station lunch was welcomed. After gassing up for the last time before reaching my destination, I was a bit unsure about the ceilings to get over to Garden Valley. I was listening to traffic on the backcountry frequencies and people were out and about, so I figured all was good. My arrival to Garden Valley was typical for a rookie like myself. Big old pattern and way too high on final. I had to put an Ohio bush plane slip that would make Swingle giggle to get her down. I did grease it onto the runway for everyone, so it looked pretty impressive, I was told a few times that night. That made my day. Actually, stepping foot on the turf at Garden Valley made my day. After some much-needed sleep that night, there was some discussion the next morning, and it was decided that a group would head off to Idaho City for breakfast. The weather was forecast to be basically perfect. Pretty cool in the morning and warm in the afternoon with nothing more than a light breeze. Idaho City had the Frontier Days Festival in full swing and the place was booming. It's hard to believe this place used to be the capital city of Idaho. It was awesome to finally meet so many of the people that I have only known online through screen names and direct messages. I emailed with a few people before my trip for some e-mentoring, and it turns out some of these people have become what I would consider close friends. The backcountrypilot.org site has helped forge some amazing friendship over the past few years for me. After Idaho City, a few of us decided to go to the Atlanta Hot Springs for a little R&R. Atlanta is a cool little mountain town with a one-room school and currently 2 bars. There are also 2 airstrips there. One is private, however, and is called the Green Valley Retreat. The U.S. Forest Service strip is the one to use. The hot springs were incredible, and the backdrop was beautiful. On our walk back from the hot springs, we watched our fellow aviators depart the U.S. Forest Service strip. After grabbing a cold bottle of water at the bar, we were again shuttled back to the strip. I can honestly say I really enjoyed this day. It was what I envisioned a typical day flying and enjoying the backcountry would be. A nice mix of destination-driven recreation, capped off in the morning and evening with some mountain flying. I was in paradise.
So fun. Big mountains, I'm here right now to tell you. I just love to land them all, one by one. The glamour of the Super Cub has lured me to the places where you feel alive. When you sit there on top of a mountain, you're living on the wild side of life. So go out and buy yourself a bush plane. Maybe throw a good Cato on the nose. Then land it on top of a mountain and just see if that big old smile shows. I didn't know God made mountains to land on. I never knew that it could be so fun. Big mountains, I'm here right now to tell you. I just love to land them all, one by one. I just love to land them all, one by one. Yeah.
I was undecided what I was going to do for the next few days. Everyone seemed to be heading out to other locales. I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. My friend Tyler, aka Costronaut, asked me to come camp at Johnson Creek for a few nights. So that's what I did. I'm so glad I did too, for multiple reasons, many of which would not be revealed to me until later that year. We agreed to fly together over to the Flying Bee Ranch for breakfast with a few other pilots we had camped with.
El viento viene, el viento se va por la frontera. El viento viene, el viento se va. El hambre viene, el hombre se va, sin más razón. El hambre viene, el hombre se va, ruta Babilón. Por la carretera, por la carretera. La suerte viene, la suerte se va por la frontera. La suerte viene, la suerte se va. El hambre viene, el hombre se va, sin más razón. El hambre viene, el hombre se va. ¿Cuándo volverá? Por la carretera, 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 por la carretera.
Take this heart of gold and melt it down, then I'll come around, I'll come around. I'm treading lightly in your eyes, and honey, I can't live a life, but a life without you could never still me now. So much time to spend.
We spent about an hour and a half there before departing. The Flying Bee is such an awesome place. It felt so remote, so isolated. Only easily accessible by our mode of transportation, the airplane. It would take forever on foot, possibly days on horseback, and I can't even say because I'm unsure how long by river. Departing the ranch, I had some difficulties climbing out of the valley. The plane was heavy and the engine was having some cooling issues. I was able to keep it cool, but I had to keep the airspeed up for cooling and was not able to climb quite as fast as I would have liked. I was able to stay fairly calm by talking through the issues with Tyler on the radio. We had to climb over 7,000 feet to clear the ridge to the west of Chalice. It was the most nerve-wracking climb out I have had to date. After fueling up in a bro hug, we parted ways. This was the last time I would see Tyler alive. Tyler would be killed in a mid-air collision 3 months later. Blue skies and tailwinds, brother. I will cherish the time we spent together in Idaho. Eastbound. As much fun as my short time in the West was, it felt good to be pointed home. My first stop after Chalice was Kemmerer, Wyoming. I have to be honest, I had fears of the Wyoming winds from stories of other pilots. After some of the winds I experienced on this trip, I felt like I was ready for whatever, within reason, of course. I was getting to know my airplane better than ever. I logged over 30 hours so far on the trip. I felt good enough that all I would need to do was point my nose into the wind and I could land across most runways in my airplane. These small bits of experience gained were being compiled. They were being turned into confidence, not only in my flying ability, but in myself. That was the most amazing thing, the feeling of knowing I could handle a difficult situation. During my trip to town for fuel and food in Kemmerer, I saw the original JCPenney's store. It looked like it was closed, but there nonetheless. After Kemmerer, it was Rollins, where I saw a nice herd of antelope grazing in a field off the runway. After Rollins, near Medicine Bow Peak over the Medicine Bow National Forest, I had another cylinder head temp scare, which turned out to be a false reading on the gauge. I calibrated and verified the inaccuracy of the gauge in flight with my fist. After striking the dashboard, things looked better. I believe it was a sticky needle. That little sticky situation was followed by a beautiful dusk landing at Laramie. The airport was all but closed when I got there. The only people there were two rampies who were closing up shop for the night. The FBO was closed. I talked one of the rampies into giving me a ride to a hotel with a shuttle to the airport in the morning. But the hotel was all the way across town. Dumb idea. We drove past 3 perfectly good hotels to get to this one. The taxi ride. Yes, taxi. The shuttle only runs at 6 a.m., I learned. Cost $50 the next morning, and it turned out it was more like public transit. We picked up 2 other people on the way. I think I paid their way also, you know. After Laramie, it was Searle, Nebraska. Actually, the winds were worse than in Wyoming. It sure made for a short landing. Maybe my shortest of all time for me, even now. It felt good. Once I made the right turn to head to the ramp, I realized that taxiing was going to be slow and sweaty, but I made it. I thought Wyoming was windy. Then on to Kearney, Nebraska to fuel up again, then to North Central Missouri Regional for the night. I slept on the couch in the office there also. I woke up the next morning to a beautiful sunrise and awesome tailwinds. I only had a single stop to make in Taylorville, Illinois before passing over Indianapolis and Dayton Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and then finally landing back at Noble County Airport where this all had started. What an epic adventure for a new pilot. It would be an adventure for any pilot who really loves to fly. It was possibly the best single learning experience I have ever had. Never in my wildest dreams could I have seen this coming. Piloting my own airplane into some of the most remote wilderness in the lower 48. I learned so much about flying, sure, but I learned more about who I really am and who I was becoming. I gained confidence that I never thought I would have. I learned that I am capable of making good, safe decisions. I learned that I have skills and that I am in fact a good, competent pilot, albeit green. I learned that in order to truly live, you have to work outside of your comfort zone. There were multiple occasions where I wanted to turn around and fly back home. Multiple times I was scared. And with the exception of a few moments, I had only myself and my instincts to rely on. I wanted to get to Idaho. It was more than just a backcountry flying destination. It was a spot on the map that represented so many of my dreams. I made it there and back to Idaho.